An octogenarian, in order to continue his family line, actually hung a captured female thief in midair, then without a word, used scissors to cut open her pants. Before the woman could understand what was happening, the old man took a can of high-protein substance from the freezer, carefully placed it on the fire to heat, and then used a test tube to draw out a full container. Seeing the old man approaching with the liquid in hand, the woman finally realized the seriousness of the situation. It seemed the man intended to use her to bear a child. "And we'll give you your life back." Hearing this, the woman felt deep despair. She certainly didn't want to carry the offspring of an old man. The woman broke down and struggled violently, but it was all in vain. The old man easily subdued her, and the next second, aimed the test tube at her. At this moment, the woman was filled with regret, as the current situation was entirely due to her own actions. It turned out that just a day before, Xiao Mei had accidentally learned about the daughter of a blind veteran while surfing the internet. Accidentally got hit and killed by a wealthy heiress driving a car, and as a result, the veteran received $1 million settlement. Seeing this, Xiao Mei was instantly blinded by greed, and thus incited two accomplices to steal the veteran's compensation money. The three, sharing the same bad intentions, decided to act immediately, and began scouting around the veteran's residence. After some investigation, they were surprised to find that this community was in a remote area, with no other residents besides the veteran, and since the veteran was blind, there was absolutely no pressure. So, the three of them took action under the cover of night, but what they didn't know was, a terrifying nightmare was gradually approaching. The three first fed meat laced with a sedative to the vicious dog kept by the veteran. Once the dog was completely asleep, Xiao Mei, using her petite frame, quietly climbed through the window of the veteran's house. After using a remote control to disable the alarm system inside, Xiao Mei immediately opened the door to invite her two accomplices inside. To avoid making any noise, they quietly took off their shoes before entering and then began searching the house for the $1 million. Before long, Xiao Hei barged into the blind veteran's room, skillfully taking out, intending to knock the veteran unconscious. To his surprise, when he looked up again, he found that the veteran was somehow sitting on the bed, staring intently at him. Xiao Hei was so frightened that he didn't dare to make a sound, fearing that the veteran would notice him. Fortunately, the veteran was indeed blind, and had only gotten up to turn off the TV. Seeing the veteran lie back down to sleep, Xiao Hei quickly placed high on the ground, and then tiptoed out of the room. At this moment, the two accomplices outside unexpectedly discovered a locked room, and they guessed that the huge sum of money must be hidden there. Excited, Xiao Hei immediately took out his family heirloom crowbar, intending to forcibly pry open the door lock. Unexpectedly, the lock, which seemed inconspicuous, was actually extremely tough. This infuriated Xiao Hei, who then pulled out a handgun. Seeing this, Nick was terrified, because according to American law, if they committed a robbery with a gun, the other party could shoot them without hesitation. After saying this, Nick tried to pull Xiao Mei away, but Xiao Mei refused to leave, determined not to give up halfway without getting the money. Xiao Hei also disregarded Nick's warning, as he had already given the veteran high highs. Maybe the other party is dreaming at this moment. After saying this, he aimed the handgun at the door lock. With a crisp gunshot ringing out, Nick felt a surge of foreboding and immediately decided to leave the two behind and walk away on his own. Meanwhile, Xiao Hei had just removed the door lock and turned around, only to be horrified to find the veteran mysteriously appearing at the doorway. No, it wasn't that the two were too scared to move. It was Vince who didn't dare to act. At this moment, Xiao Hei had a quick idea and Hei-Ling quickly came up with an idea and lied that he had accidentally wandered in drunk, but how could the veteran believe his words? As the veteran slowly advanced, he soon stepped on the door lock that had been removed. The veteran suddenly realized that a clueless little thief had broken into his home. Seeing that he could no longer hide, Hei-Ling decisively pulled the bolt of his gun, threatening the veteran to hand over all his money and valuables. But how could a battle-hardened veteran compromise?
You do your thing, man. I'll show you. You test me.
However, it was this shot that revealed Xiao Hei's position to the veteran. Suddenly, he used a move called Dragon Capture to pin Xiao Hei firmly against the wall, his strong grip forcibly redirecting the gun's aim. Seeing this, Xiao Hei quickly begged for mercy. The veteran asked him how many accomplices he had. Xiao Hei glanced at Xiao Mei not far away and claimed he was alone, but just as he finished speaking. Witnessing this scene, Xiao Mei was completely dumbfounded. She only wanted to quietly steal a little money, never expecting to encounter such a life-threatening situation. Terrified, she wet her pants and immediately hid in a nearby wardrobe, curling up in the corner and covering her mouth tightly, afraid of alerting this blind god of death. Fortunately, the veteran did not notice her presence and instead turned to a compartment. What Xiao Mei never expected was the $1 million they had been desperately searching for was actually hidden here by the blind veteran. The veteran began to enter the password on his own. It was precisely because of this action that Xiao Mei, from her corner, was able to see the password. At this moment, she was completely consumed by greed, entirely unaware of the seriousness of the situation. Boldly, she sent a message to Nick, indicating that she knew where the money was and urged him to come back quickly to help. However, when Nick returned, he happened to run into the veteran, but fortunately, he was quick on his feet. This was how they narrowly escaped disaster. Unexpectedly, in the next second, the veteran used wooden boards to nail shut all the doors and windows. They had to wait. After the veteran walked away, Xiao Mei quickly entered the safe's password and pocketed the $1 million inside. As the two were about to make their escape, the veteran suddenly pushed open the door. Fortunately, his eyesight was poor, and he didn't notice the two petty thieves standing right in front of him. He crouched down and began to deal with the corpse on the floor, while the veteran held the truth in his hands. The two were so scared they didn't dare to breathe loudly and could only slowly move their feet to retreat. But at this moment, Nick accidentally made a noise, which immediately alerted the veteran. He raised his handgun and scanned the surroundings, quickly aiming the barrel at Xiaomei. Faced with the threat of death, the terrified Xiaomei was on the verge of tears. Just when she thought she was doomed, suddenly the phone on the corpse started ringing. This caused the veteran to lower his guard and start seriously dealing with the corpse on the ground. However, as he was tidying up the room, he suddenly smelled a strong odor of athlete's foot. Following the scent, he discovered a pair of women's shoes on the floor. The veteran immediately realized there were others in the house, so he quickly returned to check the safe. Sure enough, his savings had vanished without a trace, which made him furious. Just as he was lamenting the loss of his money, he suddenly heard the sound of a bell coming from the basement. It turned out that the two petty thieves had already made their way to the basement and accidentally stumbled upon the veteran's earth-shattering secret hidden there. The two petty thieves just intended to sneak in and steal some money, but unexpectedly stumbled upon a shocking secret of the homeowner. The blind veteran had been holding a pregnant woman captive here, and at that moment, the two realized they had walked into a den of wolves. Nick signaled May to quickly retreat, but to his surprise, May's maternal instincts kicked in, and she decided to help the pregnant woman escape, unaware that the veteran was already lying in wait at the exit. After the indiscriminate shooting, although Nick and Xiaomei escaped by chance, the pregnant woman was unfortunately shot and killed. After feeling that the woman was not breathing, the veteran was immediately grief-stricken. He wanted to make the two pay with blood, and then he blocked all the doors and windows one by one, turned off all the lights in the room, and then started to hunt down the two. Without the help of lights, the two could only search in the dark. Fortunately, they found a door that was not locked, and they quickly fled. However, they were horrified to find that the old soldier's vicious dog was watching them not far away. The two subconsciously ran away, and soon they were chased to the second floor by the vicious dog. The two hid in a room and used a wardrobe to block the door. They wanted to open the window to escape, but the window was tightly blocked by steel bars. As the veteran began to break down the door, Nick had no choice but to let May escape through the vent first, while he stayed behind to delay the veteran. However, his small frame couldn't hold out for long. As the door was finally opened, the vicious dog rushed in and lunged at Nick, sending him flying out the window. Fortunately, Nick survived the fall, but the next second, the veteran appeared right in front of him and randomly fired another shot at Nick. Fortunately, the shot did not hit Nick, and he stumbled to his feet, just as he was about to flee from this troubled place, when the old soldier appeared before him again, like a ghost. Terrified, Nick quickly hid in a corner, covering his mouth tightly, afraid to make a sound. At that moment, he noticed a hammer hanging on the wall and decided to take the initiative. Just as the veteran approached, Nick swung the hammer for a surprise attack, but the veteran was a seasoned fighter, and Nick was no match for him. Before long, he was pinned to the ground, and the veteran unleashed a flurry of blows, leaving Nick gasping for breath. Then the veteran raised a pair of large scissors and lunged at Nick. Unbeknownst to him, he didn't stab Nick's body, but rather another thief's corpse. Meanwhile, May was struggling to crawl through the duct. After what felt like an eternity, she finally reached the end of the duct. She kicked open the cover, thinking she was about to escape, but a large hand pulled her back inside. It was the veteran who had followed her, and he began to beat her mercilessly. Faced with this thief who had stolen from him, the veteran didn't kill her, as he still had his own selfish motives. He wanted Xiaomei to replace the girl, and become the vessel for his bloodline. Sure enough, when Xiaomei woke up again, she was already in the bed in the basement, and the old soldier was sitting not far away. She confessed her true feelings to Xiaomei, saying that the dead pregnant woman was the murderer who hit her daughter to death. Because the other party was rich and powerful, she managed to avoid jail, but she lost her child forever. The old soldier thought that since the other party killed his daughter, so the veteran believed that the woman should compensate him with a child, which is why he had kidnapped and imprisoned her. Now, after finally carrying a child for 10 months and being close to giving to avoid leaving himself without descendants, the blind old man hangs the captured female thief in midair and uses scissors to cut her pants. Then, he pulls out a tube of high-protein liquid that he has treasured for many years, planning to use the woman as a surrogate to have a child. Months. And I will give you your life back. Hearing this, the woman completely breaks down. Just when Xiaomei is in despair, she suddenly gets splattered with blood. It turns out that her accomplice, Nick, has arrived just in time. After knocking the veteran down, he quickly frees Xiaomei and cuffs the veteran's hands. At this moment, Xiaomei can no longer contain her anger and vents all the grievances she has suffered onto the veteran, even grabbing a pipe and shoving it into his mouth. After venting, the two men planned to escape with the 1 million, but the moment the door opened, the old soldier haunted her again. Seeing this, Xiaomei ran away without looking back. After running for a distance, she looked back and found the old soldier quietly watching her at the door. She was so angry that she mocked him. "You're worthless out here." Suddenly, the veteran gives a command, and the vicious dog charges at Xiaomei, leading to a chase between her and the dog. Just as the dog is about to bite her, Xiao Mei quickly jumps into her car. Although she successfully avoids the dog's attack, the backpack containing the $1 million falls outside. She knows she fought hard for that money, and she absolutely won't give up. Looking at the fierce dog outside, Xiao Mei suddenly comes up with a plan. She first lays down the back seat, and then ties the trunk with a rope. When the vicious dog is lured inside, Xiao Mei quickly shuts the trunk and kicks the seat back into place, successfully trapping the dog inside. However, the dog is too fierce and breaks free from its restraints in no time. In a moment of crisis, Xiao Mei grabs a hook and clips it onto the dog's leash, finally managing to control the vicious dog in the car. While she is busy picking up the money, she is completely unaware that the veteran has appeared behind her. Just like that, Xiao Mei was caught again. She thought she wouldn't escape this time, but then she noticed the remote control for the alarm next to her, which reignited her hope. She pressed the button, and in an instant, the deafening alarm blared throughout the room, causing the hearing-sensitive veteran immense pain. Seizing the opportunity, Xiao Mei picked up a crowbar and launched a counterattack. The veteran, unable to discern his surroundings, randomly fired his gun. Xiao Mei took advantage of the moment and unleashed a series of powerful strikes, forcing the veteran to retreat step by step. In the end, he accidentally fell from upstairs to the basement. Looking at the veteran who was as good as dead, Xiao Mei, exhausted both physically and mentally, finally picked up the $1 million and managed to escape just before the police arrived. With this wealth, Xiao Mei lived a prosperous life. However, one day, she happened to see on the news that the blind veteran was not dead after all. He had been rushed to the hospital by the police and saved. Upon seeing this, Xiao Mei was once again engulfed by fear. And that's how the film comes to an end.